And we are back with the Greenwash podcast. I'm back with Imani, and this time we have Elena with us. And today we're going to be talking about paper straws, namely why everyone hates them. So paper straws, first of all, any thoughts? Because I know this invokes strong reactions when I mention paper straws.
What do you think?
Strong reactions, no pun intended. That's funny. But yes, in general, I just think people think that they're inefficient and they aren't a good stand-in for the plastic alternative.
Yeah, I mean, I like a good paper straw. It makes me feel good about myself. I don't know. I like it.
Yeah, paper straws. I've never seen a sort of quote-unquote sustainable product that's so heavily hated by Gen Z.
Yeah.
Like, the amount of TikToks I see just clowning on paper straws for like, the life of them. Like,
just the little inconveniences that
like,
it
oh,
brings.
you might be folding, but at least you're not a freaking paper straw in a drink. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah. No, that's real. Those fold.
And
like,
I've seen so many people, like, our age who will, make a lot of sacrifices to look sustainable and, like, ecologically certified.
Sound.
Right? But I've never seen so many people just decide that paper straws are like the line. They've had it. I can take a lot of things, but a soggy straw in a drink is not one of them.
It's like that. That's what does it for you. Like, not the temperature rising.
Right.
That not as concerning.
There are a lot of things I can tolerate, but not the straws.
Yeah, I can tolerate the 2%. Like, no, you I don't know. It's just very frustrating.
So the paper straws, they've made a resurgence now in response to the plastic straws, right? So in response to, so many reports of plastic straws clogging up landfills and, just becoming like, I think about a good 7% of our waste, that has become the sort of reaction to have paper straws. And I'm from California, so I don't actually see them as often as you'd think, but they are like half the time they're there, and you never know what you're going to get. Sometimes I'll pull up and it'll be a paper straw, and I'm like, oh boy. And I take two. Which defeats the purpose. But if it's going to
defeats the like, let's talk about that. Like, it totally defeats the purpose because you have to use two of them anyway.
Yeah.
Or they give you two initially, too.
Do you see a lot of paper straws?
Where are you from?
Indianapolis. I think in Indianapolis, definitely, there is kind of like a turnover happening. But it's not like the flimsy paper straws. What I see a lot is like the thicker, like cardboard type ones. And those do kind of stand up a little bit more. But I see those at a lot of, like, more millennial-type establishments or, like, coffee shops. But I guess in terms of, like, being in normal places, I think there's still a lot of plastic straws that have, like, the upper hand.
No, yeah, we went to get milkshakes in her town, and I think they gave us paper straws with their milkshakes, right?
They were good paper straws.
Yeah, they were good, though. They were, like, big and, oh, my God. No, but they were some good paper straws. Like, they were good.
I appreciate that. No, you're totally right about how many larger chains still, like, don't care.
Yeah.
I do see that in, like, a lot of the trendy, like, niche coffee shops or whatever. Now, the funny thing about paper straws is that they, we know them as a reaction to the plastic straws, but they were the original straw.
Right.
So paper straws were once considered the standard form of straws before the invention of plastic straws. And it started in the beginning of the 19th century. So the modern straw's predecessor was created using, like, either wheat or rye, and no one liked it because it became soggy. So that's been a thing since the 19th century. Like, just no one likes it. And they were kind of unpopular with the general public. And then after that, people usually used glass straws, which is still, like, a new thing that we have now, people using glass straws again. So I think it's cool that we come in a full circle.
I agree. Especially with the paper straws. Did you know that they're the first straws?
I actually only knew that because you said it earlier today. Because someone was like, so tell me about straws. And that was, like, the first thing you said. So I thought that was really interesting. I did not actually know that.
Yeah, I was obviously talking about the podcast just because I was so interested in the fact that paper straws were the original straw. That is such a mind-blowing fact. Yeah.
I wonder how they feel about being like, oh,
so hated.
You're the replacement for the plastic straw. They're like, I was here first.
Yeah, literally every trend ever. But yeah, it's definitely interesting to just kind of see how people react to something that is tried and true, really.
And So you have glass straws, and then the first modern straw to become popular with the market was a paper straw, which was invented by Marvin Chester Stone, and he filed a patent for his paper straws in 1888. So this was a long time back.
That's hellas, yeah.
That's older than you expect the straw to be.
Like, yeah, the poor straw is going through like the worst and most prolonged identity crisis that's like known to man.
It's like, what am I?
Who am I? You haven't even heard of all the other straws. Like,
oh my God, there's so many. So he filed a patent for the paper straws in 1888, and he marketed directly to companies. So he didn't go to consumers first. He directed it to companies to gain bulk sales, and then he relied on them to popularize it among individual consumers.
Smart.
And then his partner, Joseph Friedman, later creates the world's first bendy straw because his daughter was too short to drink out of a regular straight straw. Not to clown on her.
That's cute, though.
It's cute. And then you have the bendy straws. And then you have the paper straw and the bendy paper straw going strong and solid until 1950s, when the invention of the plastic straws came out after Stone's paper straws. And it took the market by storm, like overnight.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Like McDonald's and stuff.
Absolutely. So they were actually one of the first ones to use the heavy, like, plastic straws, that sort of thing. Because for them, it was both easier to almost create, and then it was easier to just kind of, you know, the plastic straws don't dissolve in your drink. That's like the number one thing. So it's more, you know, reliably sound.
Yeah.
So they're the ones who actually started using it first. They're the trendsetter, right? So a lot of other fast food chains catch on, and then you have the plastic straw just kind of everywhere in the 1950s. And then along with that came just the commercialization of plastic straws.
Yeah.
So the bendy straw, you have like the crazy like loop-de-loop straws that are like really ridiculous
that's
looking.
That's so cute that you said it like that, because that's exactly how it is.
Exactly.
I haven't seen one of those in so long. Have you?
No, I kind of only see them at the dollar store or something.
Yeah, it's like what a novelty item that we just don't get as often.
Or at Party City. Like.
Yeah, like that's a fun. Like bendy straws are fun.
Yeah, they were a huge thing actually though especially in the 1960s. Like those were like, oh, if you got a margarita, you want the stupid bendy little bendy straw.
Yeah.
Like, do you use bendy straws?
Yes, I do like bendy straws. I have like also these metal straws, and I lost one, but there was one that had some shape to it, so rip that.
You like a good bendy straw?
Yes.
Yeah, and you have, you know, the commercialization of that. And by the 1950s, after that, like, that's all you see now, plastic straws. Like, they took the world by storm so quickly that it just knocked paper straws out of the water. Right. You have to think of how strong their impact was that we don't even remember paper straws being, like, the OG.
No, and then I also think about, like, Shirley Temple, and she definitely, I feel like, popularized the bendy straw, the loop-de-loop straw. Like, thinking about just her impact on American society, period, and no matter what she used, if she used it, it would be, like, popularized. I could only imagine what would happen if I saw Shirley Temple with the bendy straw. I would automatically want a bendy straw.
Exactly.
In the 50s. Yeah.
And in fact, that was a lot of like the image of the plastic straw.
Yeah.
Like especially those margarita straws or like the kind of vacation ones you would see like on these vacation classic 70s prints. You would see someone with a drink in like a pool or something having that straw, and no one really thought about it. No one really thought about the impact because was anyone bringing it up at the time? They're just like, this works better than the paper straw. You can get in more colors, and you can do the crazy little bendy thing that you couldn't do with the paper straw.
Right, which is fun
up until the 21st century. And now we've had plastic straws for a time. They've knocked paper straws out. No one remembers them anymore. Right. And now the reign of plastic straws is coming under heavy criticism due to the large amount of plastic waste that it's leaving in its landfills. So in kind of response to that, people are starting to talk more about it. You see the emergence of the Last Straw campaign, which is part of the Pacific Whale Foundation. That starts a huge campaign against plastic straws now that they see more and more of it ending up in the landfill because it's so small, and plastic straws immediately one and done, right?
And you can easily see them as well. They're usually red. You can, right? Aren't straws usually red? Do you feel like that?
I think we're just thinking of like maybe the McDonald's. No, those are white straw.
Right? They're like white ones with like the skinny red lines.
Yeah.
Those are common too.
But it really is kind of incredible to like try to wrap your head around the scale of magnitude that involves even just how many straws you could be gravitating towards daily as an individual, and then how much that would multiply if you even just looked at like the Chicagoland area. That does not compare to like actual daily waste that we would just have from plastic straws like globally. That must be like insane
catastrophic.
figures.
Yeah, that's a lot.
A large part of the Last Straw campaign's success was because a lot of it focused on, think about how much you use plastic straws, and everyone was clutching their heads going, I use it so many times. That's like the one thing everyone has used at a certain time. You had a pack of it in your house, you know, for whatever reason, you've gone to fast food places, you've used it, you've gone to a restaurant, you've used it, right? So that was the one thing that everyone could easily visualize the impact, because it's like, you've used it all the time. Your neighbors use it all the time. Now imagine everyone in America times like whatever. And imagine how much waste that's generating. It was easy for people to visualize that, rather than things like, imagine how much carbon you're emitting into the air.
Right.
You know, but it's difficult to visualize it, versus you think about how many straws you physically throw away after you use it.
No, and I'm thinking, just generally speaking, about how every straw needs a cup. So, that's poetic, actually. That's cute. But every straw does need a cup. So think about how many cups are being wasted, or why are we more inclined to reuse cups than we are straws? You know, they're both plastic products that can be reused. So that's interesting as well.
I think that might have to do with people chewing the absolute daylights out of them, though.
Oh my God, that's a good point. Like, people chew straws.
Oh my God, it was a thing. And you know, just to add to that, the straw movement, they received a major bump. So you have the Last Straw campaign drawing a lot of criticism. It has its viral moment when in 2015 a graphic viral video shot by marine biologist Christine Feiner, who extracted a basically virtually unrecognizable distorted straw from the nose of a live sea turtle.
Right. Do you remember seeing that, Elena?
I don't, but I'm kind of glad I didn't see it.
Yeah, well, it has, to this day, it still has 30.7 million views on YouTube.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And that was its viral moment. Like, that was insane for it. And even if you see the video, like, it just looks so uncomfortable.
Of course.
First of all, I have to notice, it's always the sea turtles.
Oh, really?
Like, it's always the sea turtles in the viral campaigns that's, like, getting caught up in some form of trash.
Are you saying they're stupid?
Yeah.
That's fucked up.
This is my sea turtle slander, like, moment of the podcast. But, like, I just have to think, if it's always you, are you the problem?
Yeah.
Like the, another viral environmental campaign.
Victim blaming, like
Victim blaming the sea turtles. Like,
oh my God. Obviously not seriously, but it's
no, but
interesting.
you're seeing a common trend. I understand.
It's interesting that, like, the other, you know, top of the head viral, you know, video was of a sea turtle getting caught in, like, a plastic soda, you know, like the soda cans when you get the 12-pack, the plastic wrapping thing. That was a huge thing, and that was, like, one of the biggest ones in American history. And
maybe
to this
that's
day,
why they use cardboard now.
Yeah,
I haven't seen one of those in
that
a
was
while.
to this day, people still are like, remember the turtle video, and then they cut their wrappers because it was so, that ad campaign with the turtles getting caught in that was so viral that, you know, it made a huge impact on, like, the American psyche surrounding just specifically the soda wrappers.
And imagine how many other ad campaigns we're missing out on that could actually have an impact.
It was also
like
the turtle with the plastic bag, the video of the turtle, like, trying to eat a plastic bag because it thought it was a jellyfish. And I'm like, why is it always you? Like,
that's funny. No, you make a good point. That's something to
Save
think
the
about.
Turtles really is like a common phrase
exactly.
as well. So people, I think, are knowing that turtles might need a little bit extra.
Oh my God, white girls ate that up. They wanted to feel like they were doing something with the Hydro Flask movement.
Oh my God, the Save the Turtles was directly associated with the metal straw as, like, a reaction to plastic straw. And the reason it was like Save the Turtles, why not, like, save the whales? Because it was the freaking turtle that was eating the plastic straw in that video.
Where it's like, you know, the whale is probably eating it too, but because the turtle's a much more visceral image and more friendly, you know what I mean? They definitely humanize that. So.
Yeah, so that was a huge thing. That was something that really put it on. It was a strange thing to put the war against plastic straws on the map, but it really did. Yeah. It was 2015, so fairly recent. Yeah. And by that I mean, like, almost 8 years ago.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
Crazy.
In case you wanted to think about that.
Whoa. That's crazy.
Almost 23 now.
Donald Trump wasn't even president yet.
I know. Oh, boy.
2016 was crazy for me. When Donald Trump became president, I literally thought I was going to go back into slavery. Like, I was so misinformed. I was so misinformed. I was, like, 12 or 13 years old. Like, oh, my God. Like, it's crazy.
Going to middle school was crazy that day. Yeah. Like, everyone in the hallways just,
I remember
going to school after I totally remember.
I remember sitting in, like, 5th period history, like,
Yeah. That's crazy.
Oh, boy. That was a weird thing to process at 12/13.
I agree.
I just, like, remember pulling it up on, like, the Safari. You know how, like, the Google has, like, those, like,
oh my God.
facts in, like, the Google format? And I just was like, damn. Like,
that sucks.
It said president, and I was like, damn. It was, like, crazy.
Ooh, it's a very weird atmosphere going to school. It was, like, almost surreal. I was like,
Yeah.
Yep. And, Yes, and on top of that, like there were statistics coming out saying that straws were ranked the 7th most common piece of trash collected in 2017 on global beaches by volunteer cleanup crews associated. So if you think of like Miami Beach during spring break, you know, that sort of thing.
Lots of straws there.
Exactly, and that was discovered by the Ocean Conservancy, which was a marine environmental advocacy group. So you see a lot of like plastic straw hate.
And can I say something? I definitely think that people vacation more now than they did ever before. I don't think people are vacationing, like, I don't think people have ever vacationed this much ever in their whole entire...
That has to definitely do with COVID, though.
Yeah,
like
you're right. But I guess I mean, like, in the 90s, the 80s, I feel like people were less inclined to vacation. Like, that was less of a big thing to do. But, like, I feel like now it's very common for even, like, people who can't afford it to vacation.
I think it has to also do with the fact that air flights have become more popularized. Like, you think about how common it was being like, oh, I got an airplane and went to the whatever in the 1970s versus now.
Right. You're totally, that's
now I see, like, college students, like, went to Europe for 72 hours, and I'm like, oh, you're just catching,
72 hours.
You know.
That's exactly what they do. So I definitely think that it's interesting, and I think that there is something to say about how we vacation more than we have in our past, like, 100 years, and because of this, it definitely might add to the straw, because people use straws most on vacation, i.e. bendy straws and other one-use items. So
yeah, I think that's, like, an important thing to touch on is, like, they're almost viewed as, like, a novelty, or, like, it's, like, it adds to your drinking experience, because, like, my family specifically, when we go out, that's, like, no straw time, because my brother is, like, very specific about it, so he kind of had the whole family.
Oh, does he not like straws?
He hates them.
Oh
Yeah,
my
so
God.
we always, like, drink out of the side of the glass. That's something that, like, I noticed that people don't do, and so
They're
like,
so
did he see the turtle
afraid.
video?
he probably did. But
he's inclined to the environment. Like, he cares about the environment.
Oh, is he like
generally.
older or younger?
he's older. He's actually just got a job as an environmental design
Oh,
engineer. So I
that's
think
cool.
he's, like, definitely interested.
Oh, so
in
he's
that
very
space.
into that.
No, yeah, that's
Yeah.
like his life, really.
Oh, that's great for him.
He's
Yeah.
like bug boy. So like that's, I feel like, is consistent with people that end up really caring.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great for him. Yeah, so then I can definitely see how he probably was like,
No, yeah, and I definitely think people are scared to drink out of cups. Like, I get looked at weird when I drink out of cups. I don't use straws because I'm fucking, like, gross. Like, that's what I think. Like,
1650. Yep.
there we go. Yes, I don't use straws because I'm gross. Like, I just don't care. Like, I literally just kind of think to myself, oh, like, I don't care what's on the side of this glass. I'm just going to drink from the side
You
of
have
this
to
glass.
admit that going back to when I was talking about how straws became not only popularized as like, oh, just the standard thing to replace paper straws, but like it became a thing in itself. Like, oh, it was cool and fun to use a straw. It made your drink more fun. It was like, oh, are you, the drinks at home were the ones where you didn't use straws, and you use a straw when you were drinking outside. And that's like more fun. In fact, it became up to the point where you see now people are like really, and which I'm going to talk about now, people are like more on the no plastic straws, like whatever. I think at a certain point, our family just like had a pack of straws like that we had in our thing, not for daily use, obviously, because they're at home, but like in case we had a party or whatever, right? But then my sister would like, and okay, this isn't like to bash on her, she was like 8, but she would like take it to drink milk, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Like, we don't need that right now.
We don't need that.
Yeah.
Have you seen the turtle video? Like,
Have you seen the looking at her crying eyes? Have you seen the turtle video?
You're 8. Where's your civic responsibility? Like,
No, I totally see that. I definitely think it is something to say where, like, we want our generation, like our kids, to be able to experience what we experience as far as knowledge goes about these things that are harmful. So when we see little kids doing things that we know are harmful or not sustainable, it's like weird to not like educate them, be like, you don't even know what you're missing right now. But like, it can be kind of, I guess, tedious when we do certain things like straws for milk, like when does a kid just get to have that freedom of not worrying about what's going on in there?
right? So, that's the whole thing. That's the rise of plastic straws, and then, their, canceling period or whatever, in their Kanye era or whatever, I don't know.
Oh, my God.
But then, just like with plastic straws, the new wave of having paper straws was also greatly publicized by large companies. So just like how McDonald's ushered in the era of the plastic straws, they start, once again, with the paper straws. So they started by introducing paper straws in the UK and Ireland branches, and they completely phased out plastic straws in that area. So they started that, and of course everyone's going to follow in McDonald's, suit, or many people think that, that's the move, maybe not out of their civic responsibility, but oh,
what's happening.
Exactly. If McDonald's is doing this, then it must be, the right move, that sort of thing. right? So you see many other fast food chains, especially in like more liberal areas, start to like phase that in. It definitely did start a lot in Europe, and then you have like it just keeps going and going, and then you have Starbucks declaring that in 2020 that it will abandon plastic straws by the end of 2020 in favor of the plastic sippy cup lids and compostable plastic straws.
I'm sorry, the just the way you casually said that baby word. That's so funny.
They're like, you're going back.
Yeah, you know, you're going to use a sippy cup, babe. Yeah.
Yeah, and I did kind of see this, actually. I think in 2020, we were in Lake Tahoe or something, and we were at a Starbucks, because why not? And like, there with the whole family, and we didn't get a straw in our drink, and the barista was like, you have to ask for a straw. And I was like, okay, can I have a straw? And then she gave me one. It was paper. And we're like, okay.
You're like, this is not what I wanted.
This is not what I wanted.
Yeah.
And yeah, so you see the whole new wave of like paper straws.
It's happening, whether you want it to or not.
It's happening. And it did, you know, definitely start happening, I'd say more in the 2010s.
I agree.
That's definitely when it started. So you see paper straws start in the 2010s.
I'm excited for the 30s already.
Oh boy, that's gonna be an era.
That's
right?
Gonna be hot.
Hopefully it starts out better than 2020.
Hopefully. I just know it's going to be so warm. Like, that's just so warm. Like, I might have to move to Canada because it'll be so warm.
Right. Oh, boy. So that's when it starts. And then you see now the second wave of, you know, insults about the paper straw because it's soggy. It keeps flopping in your drink. It's annoying. Yeah. People are like, you know.
I'm drinking paper.
Yeah, I'm drinking paper. And this is and I don't know, I feel like people, especially environmentalists, expected like oh my God, what liberal nonsense is this? We have to use paper straws, that sort of thing. But you see everyone, and I mean like regardless of like political stance, like everyone hates paper straws. I guess that's the one thing America agrees on, that they don't want soggy straws.
No, I understand what you mean. I think
is this like our unity point?
Is hating something what actually can bring America together? Find out on the next
episode. The universal experience of like having your straw fold mid-drink and you're like, it's over.
Yeah. No, I definitely think that that's something that Americans share, is that we love to hate. So anything that, you know what I mean? Like, oh yeah.
How did your brother feel actually about the paper straw? Was he like for it?
He just doesn't use straws, so he just
doesn't use them.
Yeah,
and I think that's something to say, because paper straws, like, although they're like better than plastic straws, there's still extra consumption that you don't need to be using.
And that's like, what about the trees? Like,
what about the trees? It does take more carbon to produce, right? So like the best course of action obviously would not be using plastic straws, but it would be technically just not using straws. However, I think that's not the solution people are still going for right now, because they do recognize that would be like a shift in the American psyche, that sort of thing. And it's always harder to like convince people to make a lifestyle shift, which is a weird way to phrase straw usage.
No, but
it's true.
But it's true. Yeah.
It's true, right?
It definitely is.
Right? Rather than just being like, okay, we'll just switch out the straw, right? Keep using your straws, but let's just switch it out, right? And in fact, that's kind of what I have here, that the most reasonable course of action after being presented with these facts, that like paper straws are soggy and they take up carbon in trees, plastic straws are terrible, would be to just stop using straws as much, because you really don't need, like, there's no drink. There's nothing that would need a straw,
especially like the moment that you see a paper straw and you're like, oh, I actually don't need a straw, because you don't want to have to deal with the paper straw struggle. So it's almost like how much would actually be wasted from the production of these paper straws at the same capacity at which the plastic straws were produced to meet that like demand, but then if they're not actually used because people would rather not use a paper straw, then like where does that leave us from a sustainability standpoint? Because then we're just producing things that we're not using at all, not even just using once and throwing away, just throwing away.
And then you see the next, like, this is our final wave that we've had so far. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but the newest wave that we have now, especially when you see the rise of the Visco Girl trend, is the metal straws and the glass straws, right? So we're once again back to our roots with the glass straws that we were using in, like, 1890.
Yeah.
Right? Which I'm sure is so ironic. I'm sure like a time traveler is like, how have we evolved? And we're still using glass straws.
Using glass straws?
Oh my God.
Some things never change.
Right? And this is like a shameless Bay Area plug, but I want to say that like in my favorite type of straw is what boba shops have been using, which is the bamboo straw.
Have you heard of this?
I love it.
I have not.
So I went to a Boba Guys in San Francisco with my friends on like a school.
Boba Guys is a popular boba chain.
It is, yes. So it's a popular boba chain. It's a bit pricey, honestly,
Yeah.
and maybe I just didn't like their matcha drink, but like whatever. This is not the time. But what they are doing is that in no Boba Guys do they have plastic straws, and I feel like actually boba stores have like as a whole, just like not just one chain, as a whole, been catching the wave first of like using alternatives to the paper straw and the plastic straw. So in fact, we have like a Gongcha nearby us, and they have my favorite iteration, which is the sugarcane straw, solely because the Boba Guys bamboo straw, I felt like was a bit like rough. Like, you know?
It's kind of an industrial straw.
It was like almost like if you used a very like, I don't want to say sandpaper, but it was a bit like rough.
No,
wood.
you even mentioned that it might have like a taste almost.
Although I'm not sure if it was that or because I was recommended by my friends to try the roasted matcha drink, which already gave it like a burnt tree kind
like
of taste.
Greeny, yeah. That makes
Sounds
sense.
awful.
Yeah, that sounds gross as hell.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like a very popular drink of theirs. I was not a fan of it. This isn't a drink review, but right. But my favorite iteration was the sugarcane straw because it feels just like a plastic straw, but it's not. Like it has this. It doesn't melt because it's sugarcane. It feels like the smooth plastic. It looks kind of like sugarcane actually, but it doesn't. It looks like a regular straw. Its structure, it's strong enough that you can use it the way you use a boba straw and you poke it into the drink.
Nice.
Right? It can do all of that, but it doesn't have a weird aftertaste, and it's sugarcane, so it's plant material, right? So I think that's actually kind of the best thing they've been doing. So I want to give a shout out there because I think that people don't mention like the weirder alternatives that a lot of boba shops have been hopping on, which is the plant-based straws, which I actually think is kind of the best solution if you don't want soggy straws in your drink.
I agree with that.
But then we have like the Visco curl trend, and it didn't start with them. It started before them for the trend to be mentioning that they use it.
Right.
But it was sure, like, especially in 2020, I noticed that so many families were getting it. I think my parents, like, had ordered, specifically, I think my mom had ordered glass and metal straws before I even mentioned it ever. And I was like, oh, boy.
Like it's happening.
It's happening. Like, you know about this now, and you've ordered it for us, and that's what we use. Do you guys' parents are like...
Yeah.
Yeah?
My parents, they made the switch to... Well, my parents are very green parents, that, like, quote-unquote...
When was it? Like...
2017, 18.
Yeah.
A little bit before we were, like, quote-unquote supposed to. But my parents are, quote-unquote, like, crunchy parents. I don't know if you've heard of this term.
I feel like I've heard
granola.
of it. Oh, granola parents.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
I know.
So they're very always on top of all of those little things. Like, I wouldn't say they're not trend hoppers, but they understand what's good and bad for the environment. And so one thing that my stepmom just noticed, obviously, was that people are using plastic straws. So she ordered a bunch of metal straws and brass straws as well.
Oh,
and then, a couple glass straws. And then she got, like, a bunch of, like, we love using chopsticks. So she got a bunch of reusable chopsticks. And she even went as far as to get bamboo utensils. So, like, we use bamboo utensils instead of, like, metal utensils.
It's so strange. I see those in Party City now.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
yeah. The ones she got were a little bit more, like, sturdy. There can be ones that are cheaper as well, which I like those. Those are great alternatives. But so she was always on the alternative utensil trend, if you will.
And
I think, like, really just my family's focus has always just been on, like, a larger view of sustainability. Like, we've always had way more recyclables than trash. Like, maybe one trash thing. We've always had, like, 3 recycling things. And then, like, reusable sandwich bags and, like, just things like that in general. My mom has always, like, put a focus on, like, packaging and all those other things. But since we don't use straws normally, like, that wasn't a switch we had to make, but we did already have, like, metal straws and stuff like that from that kind of those initial waves, I would say.
So that actually, and I saw so many other families in my area, like, who had all kind of made this, like, I saw, like, in friends' houses, like, I was like, wow, everyone is, like, on this now. Like, everyone's parents are on this. That was surprising me. I was like, it wasn't like their kids being like, Mom, can we please get a metal straw for Christmas?
No, they just realized, it's better.
It's better,
it's
you know?
cheaper,
And it makes sense. It's not like, this has never been, and I think that's why the American public has made, like, I'd almost say the most, like, in terms of, like, small products, the most progress with straws or plastic straws, that sort of thing, because it's so easy to just wrap your head around, plastic straws are like plastic and we use them a lot.
The biggest where we would actually see quote unquote progress would be if we did not feel the need to use straws anymore. I think there needs to be some education on why it's not that bad to drink out the side of a cup as you think it is. I really, really do.
Yeah, I think, so I think we've kind of, like, entered the next phase of, like,
Yeah.
rather than getting paper straws that we use and also throw out, at least we have, like, reusable straws now.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. I think just the main thing is, like, be sure to reuse it, specifically because of these sort of facts. Like, just, like, kind of parallel to the tote bag, right? A tote bag is, great, but make sure you use it for a long time, solely because a tote bag will have other costs rather than the plastic costs. Like, so, for instance, according to the HSU straw analysis by Megan Tolber and Katie Kosilok, the energy used to produce a single metal straw is equivalent to the energy used to produce 90 plastic straws. So, and based on their carbon emissions, producing one metal straw is equivalent to producing 150 plastic straws. So if you use that metal straw, let's say more than 150 times, you're not only breaking even, but you're making progress now. That sort of thing.
If you use it once a day. I think we were talking about tote bags and how you said a tote bag you'd have to use like 70 times or
I think it was basically about a year. So it was about 300 something times.
300 something. Okay, yeah. So if you use it for a year, and you probably use it for maybe 2 years, hopefully, which then, you'd break even and make progress.
And I think that's an interesting point because it's like there's this culture of like disposability or the ability to engage in these kinds of like frugal, uses of things. So I think it's interesting that like the paper straw was chosen because it is the closest like way to approach a disposable straw, like continue using straws in the same way. It's like trying to not shift the American public in that very drastic way. So it's almost like there's all this like commercializing about like bioplastic and that kind of becoming a new thing. And I think that like we would really have to switch our view of how we're using things, not just using a metal straw as if it were just a plastic straw. You have to use it as the metal straw that it is, not just like let it be a stand-in for the plastic straw.
Yeah, you're completely right about how that's why they chose the paper straw first. Just like I kind of said beforehand, like getting people to just like stop using straws at all because it's like not really needed or that sort of thing. It's always the, American psyche shifts that are the hardest. So when it comes to people who want to make environmental shifts, they're like, okay, what's going to be just the easiest thing to replace? Because it is very difficult to get, any public to, stop doing things that have been just ingrained into how they live. That sort of thing. So psyche shifts are always the hardest, or like lifestyle shifts. People find it easier to just be like, how easily can we replace this product and have you use it the exact same way, just with like a better material, that sort of thing. And I think there absolutely is a way to achieve like, mentality shifts and that. We've seen it before. So it's not like this is a hopeless, we've seen it before a lot of times, mentality shifts. I just think it has to, we have to keep striving towards that, right? That sort of thing. And like that's the thing, like metal straws, exactly what you said, they can't be used like plastic straws, metal straws, and glass straws. I've seen the silicone straws too that look like they're in a little AirPods case or whatever.
I've seen
you like flop them out and I'm like, oh boy.
That's a lot. They look like they're in like an AirPods case.
Yeah,
I know.
I'm not a fan of those just because it's weird to have like a floppy straw.
That's funny. No, they have some integrity. Like once you pop them out, they like go straight.
That's true. Oh, there are those ones that are like the bow staff
lifesavers.
They're like savers. They're like metals. Like they whip out. They're like my straw.
I have a straw now. Yeah, totally.
And what do you think, by the way, the visco trend? So now we're on metal and glass straws. What do you think the visco trend had to do with that? Because despite how much we absolutely bullied the visco trend and we absolutely like, slaughtered anyone who participated in that and, collectively clowned on it, which I think was a bit of an overreaction. I think it's part of the American trend of just clowning teenage girls for anything they like.
Hate women.
Yeah, right? Despite that, somehow, I guess people kind of selected the metal straw and glass straws. Like, we approve of that. We'll start integrating into our homes. Yeah. Because 2020 is when I really saw everyone, like, buying those and putting those in their home. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that when the Visco Girl trend, that was 2019, 2020, when all of that happened, it was so effective for Hydro Flasks. So I think that, like, that's also something that should be mentioned with the metal straw is that Hydro Flasks are almost like a replacement for a straw. Because instead of getting water from, like, a cup and then getting a straw, you just put it in your Hydro Flask and you just drink it from your Hydro Flask.
God forbid they fall, though.
Oh, my God. Like, that was, like, the whole thing. So I definitely think that that's also something to note, is that the Visco girls, like, although they brought in that metal straw wave, they also brought in the reusable water bottle wave, which I think was already coming. Like, people like using water bottles and having water, but I've never seen water be as popular as it is now. Like, I feel like water is almost as popular and varied as juice.
Yeah.
Which is weird, because you should really only be getting, like, one type of water, the good type.
Yeah.
But
what do you think?
I think that's true. I think that definitely did contribute to that. It was almost like a pairwise function, like they happened at the same time, or like one enabled the other. So it does make you think about, you know, what business decisions were being made in certain conference rooms to like make this timing really line up. So, I mean, I don't know if that was more of like a cultural or like social movement, or something that was enforced in like a more persistent and like on purpose kind of way. So yeah, I do say like holistically though, it definitely affected it, because I think now people really like the concept of like insulated and cold water, like they That's so
true.
I think it had to do a lot with it, just because it reminded people that that's an option.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, I never saw ads for plastic and metal straws until, like, 2019, 2020.
Yeah.
That's when I saw so many ads for it, and I was like, oh, this is a thing now.
They need a brand to monopolize the metal straw, so we can just call it something. I feel like there's lots of different products where I can't think of one right now, but there's hundreds
I can't
of
think
products.
on earth
Like
where
Kleenex.
my
Kleenex, right?
Yeah,
You wouldn't
exactly.
say a tissue for your nose, you'd say a Kleenex.
or like
Yeah.
Vaseline.
Yes.
People don't even like
Say petroleum
say
jelly.
petroleum jelly. But
Yeah.
it's-
So I think there needs to be some type of like metal straw company where it's like, oh, you need to get a Jemmy or something like that, you know? And then people will start to be like, oh yeah, I have a Jemmy. I had Jemmys like a while ago. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Something
Or like
like
a metal piercer. No, that's weird.
What
A metal piercer.
Sania. That's random.
Yeah, that's not. See, I shouldn't be in charge of naming it. But
We're in charge of the podcast, actually.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's where we are at now. So that's like the most recent iteration. A lot of people have in their homes. I think this is the highest use we've ever had. And honestly, the whole straw debacle, it gives me hope. You know, there are a lot of products that I have researched in, you know, my paper and, you know, for this podcast and everything that I'm like, we have a long way to go.
100%.
We do have a long way to go for straws, but I feel like straws are like the one thing that has had so many iterations, and they've all just been progressing to being more and more sustainable. You know?
It's a good like template for what sustainability could look like for products.
Exactly, right? So I think straws are something that just give me a bit of hope for this world. I'm like, I like where we're going with straws. Right?
I almost wanted to, this is so capitalist, not anarchist of me at all, but I wanted to get into supply chain management because I thought that, well, for me, I want to create products that are sustainable, and I also want to create advertisements so people can have education about what to do for sustainability. And one project I had in mind was creating a type of trailer that reuses its black and gray water, which is the biggest difference from this trailer and other trailers, in order to sustain itself without having outside resources, making it more like off the grid type of trailer.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
And I just think that like what that really needs is education and money and those type of things. So I think supply chain management could be really interesting if someone who was in supply chain management took over this metal straw thing and like created a new advertisement for it. I think that could be like what pushes it over the edge.
That's very much the theme for honestly this entire podcast. Things get started because of a very popular turtle ad campaign or like, you know, a very popular trend that, you know, people just remember that it's there and then you start seeing things move forward. And I think my final question is that we have all of our iterations through the years. We have the OG paper and let's include the rye straw. I feel bad.
Sure.
The rye straw, the OG, from the 18th century. We have the rye straw, we have the paper straw, the glass straw, the metal straw, and the plastic straw, and the, I'd say bamboo/sugarcane straw. What's your favorite?
So haven't used, I think, okay, you didn't say this type of straw, but it's a type of straw that's grainy. And I like it, and it's usually
grainy.
brown. Yeah, it's usually a brown, grainy straw. Have you ever used it?
Oh yeah, they're just like just recycled material straws.
They're
Like,
just
I
recycled
like
material
those.
straws. Yeah. I just like it because I like the texture when I.
Oh, is it
when I
kind of
sip
like
on it.
rough?
It is. It's more like a papyrus texture. Like
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Really?
Yeah, it looks like old paper that has like grains and like fibers.
We
It's
didn't
fibers.
even mention. Yeah, it's
That's what
fibrous.
it
It's a
is.
nice straw because it is plastic. It's just reused plastic, so it's like more choppy, but it still feels good. Like it feels good to drink out of. Whereas I think like other straws, they're just smooth, and that one has texture. And I'm a stimulation girl. I love texture.
I understand that. I understand, especially because we think we're like, oh, how do we keep reusing straws now? But we like, what about all the straws that we have already used that are still there? So it would be a way for sure to absolutely reuse that. That sort
I love
of thing.
those. What about you, Elena?
I think, in general, I would have to go with the metal straw because I think that enhances the temperature of the drink as well.
Yes.
And then I like the little like spoolie brushes that you like clean them out with. I do think that's maybe another reason why people like the disposable ones is because they don't have to like clean them or upkeep. But
that's definitely a thing. Oh my god, the amount of times our glass straw. How many glass straws are we down to now? The metal straw's holding up. They're great. The glass straw is broken.
Yeah. What's your favorite type?
My favorite type is actually the sugarcane straw
Right.
that like the Gongcha has because it's like
We need to go there.
It's literally adjacent. It feels like a plastic straw, but it's like it doesn't look like, you can tell it's like a plant, but it feels just like one. It has a structural integrity one. It doesn't have like a weird taste or anything like that. So I kind of like that one. I'm like, it's directly a plant, you know, just like go for it, that sort of thing.
No, yeah, green. It's green.
Yeah, it's green. And I think that's kind of just the main point of it. I do like the plastic idea, and paper straws, who knows if we'll ever see them again at this point.
Hopefully not.
I think a main problem, other than, you know, the fact that the American public just hated them, and they were the butt of so many jokes, was that paper straws were also like, you had paper straws being produced, and it's true that they were more biodegradable, but a lot of them did end up in the landfill still because when they were used for liquid, many basically they were not being recycled as much because they had been contaminated by the liquid drinks. So even them ending up in the landfill, I'd say was still better than plastic straws ending up because they would biodegrade in the landfill.
Yeah.
They dissolve in the ocean water the same that they would dissolve in your Starbucks drink.
100%.
Right? But, you know, that was just kind of a thing with them. So who knows if we'll ever see the paper straw again.
Who knows?
But right now we're in our metal and glass straw era, and I want to see what other straws we can get.
Can't wait for new straws, guys.
New straws, and who knows, maybe one day we'll get like the world your brother wants, where no one uses a straw.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think like the end of this inevitable straw journey is just no straws. It's like they're working themselves up to as close to perfection as they can achieve, and then we will realize that that's not actually a need, and I think that's going to push them out.
I look forward to seeing if there will ever be like a very impactful ad campaign about just not using a straw.
Oh, yeah.
Or if there will be like a trend that's like, imagine using straws. Like,
yeah.
I mean, imagine your children not knowing what a straw is.
Oh my God.
Like, that's a nice imagination.
Yep.
That's nice.
Well, I think that's a great place to end it. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you the next time when I'm talking about the real big one, which is electric cars.